All right, everyone, it's time to make a video to the resistance. You're not actually resisting authoritarianism, not in any way, shape, or form. At this point, you appear to be reliant mainly on the court system in the United States in order to prevent the MAGA agenda. The courts are indeed part of the government, just so you know. So that's level one. Level two is that quite clearly the judicial system within the United States has systemic issues. Just look at what's happening in New Orleans right now, if you need an example of this. You have all sorts of court intrigue, you have overcharging, you have random indictments that are obviously politically motivated, and this does not just happen, by the way, with liberal justices. Conservative justices have engaged in exactly the same behavior. Authoritarianism, therefore, if you want to tamp down on it, has to be constrained by a strictly constitutional system, or outright anarchy, but then that just spawns its own authoritarianism, so it doesn't really matter. The best thing you can do is constrain it. It is currently not constrained. We've got ongoing cases that are going to go before the Supreme Court of the United States on the limitations of judicial power. We're literally asking a judicial body to constrain the judicial body. This is going to be difficult. We're trying. Now, those of us who support populism are fighting for lower taxes, for your ability to defend yourself, for your right to basic guarantees of privacy and the ability to express yourself, for the ability of states to operate on their own accord. This is a constitutionalist platform more than anything else. Those outside of that at the moment appear to be arguing for effectively what amounts to judicial tyranny. That is, that judges will become effectively dictators. That's the worst possible outcome. You would be better off having just a Senate and getting rid of the courts entirely, and the Senate will just decide everything, or having an outright dictator. You really want the courts in the United States, liberals, through the 90s especially. I can remember this as a kid and into the 2000s as well. You remember all those instances where people were charged with drug possession because cops planted crack in their vehicles? 99% of which were black, by the way, just to drive up their score, so to speak, because they literally have a number of people they have to arrest in a certain period of time, otherwise they might get fired or something like that. Do you remember when that was a thing in certain cities in the United States? Those courts were complicit in these workings. We just had a judge literally try to shuttle somebody out of the courtroom in order to protect them from being arrested, not because they were illegally in the country. I know that liberals tend to have a soft spot for illegals unless they happen to reside in their community. A lot of NIMBYists among liberals, I've noticed. Not because of that, but because he had committed several significant crimes. Um, this is a very strange scenario in which you're appealing to high-level government power and calling yourself some sort of resistance. You're not the goddamn Rebel Alliance. This isn't fucking Star Wars. I mean, I wish it was. I would like a cruiser myself. This isn't, you're not the Rebel Alliance. You're the Empire, actually, when you come to think of it. The Uniparty is the Empire. That's literally what it is. If there's any rebel alliance, any resistance or something, it's those of us within, outside of the normal political orthodoxy that are trying to stop the political orthodoxy because it clearly doesn't work. Globalism, judicial tyranny, all of these other problems, trying to disarm people, preventing them from effectively defending themselves, censorship. You've probably seen the Twitter files and things like that. The government for years was quite literally trying to stymie your ability to speak. And it wasn't just right wingers, by the way, that were subject to this. In some cases, it was on the left too. Need I remind you, and I probably do because most people don't remember this. Do you remember about a decade ago? Well, actually, it was more than a decade now, decade and a half, thereabouts, when Facebook purged a bunch of politically motivated pages. This was a long time ago. I was much younger then. So were you. Some of you probably weren't even born then. Facebook purged a bunch of political pages, urged by the government, of course, to do so. And I have my hypothesis about exactly who was responsible for this. Now, the news told you, well, Facebook got rid of a bunch of right-wing pages, things linked to like the Tea Party and shit like that, and so forth. But when you looked at a list of the pages that had been mass removed, a lot of them were also far left-leaning. That's because the Obama administration was uninterested in the far left being a thing, so to speak. So leftists that were outside of the liberal orthodoxy were purged too. Groups like Cop Block and stuff like that. Have you ever heard of Cop Block? Probably not. There's probably a reason for this. It was an inside op by the Uniparty, but they managed to use the legacy media to convince people that it was a one-sided issue. No, 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 no. We didn't remove any progressive pages or anything like that or groups. It was all aimed at the right wing. It was completely one-sided. And so the Uniparty persisted because of that. If people had known actually how bad the situation was at the time, those two fronts might have unified. You would have gotten a proto-MAGA mixed with a leftoid movement, actually, ironically. That would have been very strange. Also would have been very amusing, definitely newsworthy. That's what happened. The Uniparty is the orthodoxy of American politics. MAGA seeks to fight against it. So does the far left. Do I agree with their ideology? Oh, absolutely not. I don't want socialism in the United States, and it's been roundly rejected anyway, so I don't fear them particularly. I believe that populism is our future, which is a good thing. Now, does it need to be tinkered with a little bit because there are still a few issues? Yeah. Is it better than what came before? Yeah. So when you call yourself the resistance, and you're an NPR cup wielding liberal who turns the thermostat down 2 degrees and puts on a sweater like Jimmy Carter suggested, and who, drinks tea from the local African cafe or something, and you love cosmopolitan politics, but you don't want them moving in next door. If you're a NIMBYist, trust me, you are no part of the resistance. And if you're, by the way, just a grandstander, a male feminist, somebody like that, who's just pretending, you're not part of the resistance. You're anything but. You're a tool of the system, a tool of the machine, nothing more. You're just a fucking cog. That's about all. Peace out.